Greetings, fellow chicken brothers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to Judging Saul, the show where we talk through all the details of AMC's Better Call Saul. I am Gustavo Fring, and you can come in for some free curly fries. Have you seen the lines for those free curly fries, Dragon?
No, I haven't.
It's insane. Like, people will, because I showed you on air, I showed you that Los Pollos Hermanos does actually exist now, at least for promotional purposes. And the free curly fries thing is actually a thing. They do give away free curly fries, par Gus Fring's request, and the line goes insane. It's like around the block. It's crazy. People show up in droves for the free curly fries. Anyways, Dragon, we're not here to talk about curly fries, are we? We're here to talk about Better Call Saul Season 3 because it is right around the corner. It's hard to believe that it's here so fast, and yet this is a season that's kind of been a little bit delayed because, you know, most of the seasons have come out in February. So, Dragon, what are your initial just kind of like hyped up thoughts about Season 3 before we get into it? I don't know.
I'm very excited. You know, I'm very ecstatic. Of course, I've been waiting for it. Like that exit. I remember when they put up one of the first promotional things they did for it, aside from the whole, you know, Jimmy's in trouble. They had this they show like a little sneak peek at the season, and I guess I didn't notice like the date that was attached to the other ones, if they came later or not. I can't quite remember. The point is, they had the sneak peek called, like, you know, Crisis Averted, where basically, you know, it seems to be an aftermath of episode 10 of Click. Yeah, basically it's Jimmy returning from, you know, helping Chuck out, and basically, you know, he's kind of swaying Kim's worries, but we see a nice little tender moment. Then at the end, I was like, oh man, that's good character depth. All right, now what I'm prepared for is like, okay, it's going to say, I didn't know when. I assumed it was going to be February, maybe March, but then it said April. No, not April. No,
Dragon, I actually think it works out to our benefit though, because Bates Motel is just wrapping up and Gotham is still a couple weeks off. So I think for our schedule, Better Call Saul coming a little bit later kind of works out in the grand scheme of things.
Oh yeah, because after the initial shock, like, no, we gotta wait for Saul. It was, you know, well, yeah, I kind of switched places with Bates Motel. So yeah, you know, I hate change. Darn it, I hate change.
All right, so let's not get into change just yet, Dragon. Let's get into what we know so far and kind of our thoughts on Season 2 as a whole and whatnot. So, Dragon, I was very open in Season 2, and I've yet to go back and do a proper rewatch of Season 2. I've explored certain episodes and certain moments from it, but
I've watched Seasons 1 and 2 so many times.
But my God, I do think Season 2 is just like, as fun as Season 1 was, and, you know, it had some great dramatic moments towards the end, I think Season 2 was a fantastic narrative and a fantastic piece of storytelling and, you know, a great character study for James McGill.
Absolutely.
I thought Season 2 was wonderful, and I still say this. I think it pretty much stands up with, you know, let's say a weak, quote-unquote, weak season of Breaking Bad, like, let's say Season 2.
What? I don't know if that's fair. Again, 2 has like a speed bump in the middle with all the Scholar BS. But aside from that, it's really,
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think Better Call Saul Season 2 doesn't really have any speed bumps. I think Better Call Saul Season 2 is damn solid the whole way through. It's just not quite as iconic as some of the high highs of Breaking Bad Season 2.
Right.
So, anyways.
Yeah, Season 2, it's like this excellent advancement of Jimmy McGill's story. You know, Season 1 boils down to arcs, really. It's, you know, with Jimmy as the connecting point through everything. Jimmy appears at least once in every episode. So even like the episode that's very Mike centric, at least Jimmy has like a little, he's like worked in there somehow. So he's like our connecting point through, like, in some of our kind of vignette-esque episodes in the grand narrative. And Season 2, on the other hand, again, it's kind of funny. It's almost like a kind of a Bates Motel comparison, because, you know, Season 1 kind of breaks down the two halves of the season. You know, the first half and then the second half with Abernathy.
Right.
So Season 2, kind of like Season 2 Bates Motel, it's more of kind of they're working in they're kind of less kind of two arcs, like less arcs glued together with like a familiar glue. In this case, it's hey, it's we're telling this really story feeds into every other thing. Everything connects and everything kind of meets up with each other. So like season 2 with the quote Peter Gould is kind of the Fabergé watch Swiss egg approach. It's lovely kind of really reverse those two. Like it's a Fabergé watch and a Swiss egg,
right?
And it's the benefit of kind of figuring out the show you're doing in season 1, because believe me, season 1 to me was so rewatchable. I thought like, oh man, even when season 2 was coming out, like season 1 is just so darn rewatchable. It's such a great kind of like just jumping into this world and exploring it. But now that we know this world, season 2 really it ups the storytelling and just
I mean, season 1 is watchable, but I just think season 2 there was a certain level of artistry and finesse and and storytelling heights that they reached in season 2 that just weren't like season 1 was fun. And I think season 2 had a lot more pathos to it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like again, season 1 like when season 2 is still fresh in my mind, it's really hard to say which one was superior. But I gotta tell you, season 2, rewatching that, it's again, you're right though. It's like this kind of this work. It's this work of art. It really just kind of it fits in so well. It's so well plotted. It gels together so well. It's kind of superior to 1, but again, 1 they didn't even know. For all intents and purposes, they might not know.
Of course.
At a certain point.
And 1 did end in a very satisfying way, where if that was the last thing we saw of the show, we'd be like, well, okay, we know now generally how Jimmy McGill became Saul Goodman. You know what I mean?
Exactly. At least we have there's enough there so we can just see
right.
breadcrumbs and like, okay, well, he's driving off in the distance.
Yeah.
Again, anything could happen. And again, basically, we've fallen in love, and we're rooting for Jimmy in seasons 1 and 2, especially. Like 2, just we're along that journey with him at this point because we've gotten to know him, and
of course, one of the main things that season 2 improved upon for me, which of course Dragon evolved into one of our beloved running jokes that the audience is probably sick of at this point. Howard Hamlin, seriously, he went from like kind of a jerk in the beginning of season 1 to slightly less of a jerk at the end of season 1.
Well, remember, it's not slightly. We had a whole big reveal about Howard Hamlin. He wasn't the bad guy.
I know. But I'm just saying, with Howard Hamlin season 2, I think he really did kind of. I zeroed in on him in season 2 as one of my favorite things about the series, and how it definitely like his presence is. I hate trying to compare to Breaking Bad, but I think his presence is just as good as some of the iconic Breaking Bad characters over the years. It's like he's a great addition to the canon of this universe, I think.
Yeah, I can't get enough of Patrick Fabian whenever I rewatch it. So it's like, I just love it when Howard Hamlin shows up. Not just for the running gag, just because, oh my god, he's such a fun, he's such a fun enigmatic character because you never know what's going on with Hamlin. I'm so impressed that they could get old really fast. Of like, we don't know like what side Hamlin's on. It's like we should be like logically we should be like, why is this guy so vague? How can we not tell if he's on his side? If he's not on his side, he's really like that much of a prick as Chuck actually pulling the strings. But again, he plays it so well that he just plays so it lures you in. It's so interesting, and I think season 3 they're definitely going to kind of change that up because I don't think they're going to repeat that. As much as I have the utmost faith in the writers, and if they could sell me on that easily somehow, but I have a sense they're going to be smart enough storytellers. They're going to actually kind of have Howard take us out, at least transition him to be a little bit more clear cut on what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, with the season, let me say this again: I think like Bates Motel, with Jimmy's character, I think. Like with Norman, we hope against hopes that he won't fulfill his. That
was the great thing about season 2 for me is that, of course, in season 1, all we wanted to do was see Jimmy McGill become Saul Goodman. And I think the great kind of like sleight of hand magic trick they pulled with season 2 was season 2, we don't want to see Jimmy McGill become Saul Goodman. It's like the reversal. You know what I mean?
And Tiki, here's the thing, and we'll get into this, I guess, more with speculation at the end. Maybe we'll definitely be talking about this all throughout, especially when we get close to the end of season 3, I presume, is that just when we talk about kind of the grand future of the series as a whole.
Sure.
But I love it when one of my favorite things, especially when I get the DVDs, I love listening to the commentaries, I love listening to the making because I'm so fascinated by this show as we were with Breaking Bad. But I love with the production, the writers, much like us, the audience, have fallen in love with Jimmy's character, and that's why they can't just they could easily kind of make him Saul by the end of the first season, but they didn't do that. They wanted to. They just fell in love with the character, and then Jimmy, like Walter White, is guiding the story. So they don't know exactly where it's going to end. He's taking them on a journey. Like they don't want him to instantly become Saul, and there's like they're going through logic. Okay, well he wouldn't instantly become Saul. It's like how do you take a really nice guy and make him into a strip mall cheesy lawyer? And again, it's like we're hoping against hopes that Jimmy's not going to fulfill his strip mall lawyer destiny. Yet at the same time, we're rooting for the payoff all the way. It's like it has its pie and it sits on it too. You know, that's kind of what it is. It's like we have our pie and we sit on it too.
Sure.
So of course, some favorite episodes of, I guess if I were like kind of ranking like top 5 would be Inflatable, Gloves Off, Cobbler, Nailed, and Click. Those would be kind of my favorites from season 2.
Yeah, sounds about right on the money for me as well. I think Inflatable had. I think my favorite sequence from season 2 was in Inflatable with the montage of Jimmy destroying his career with Davis in Maine.
It's absolutely my favorite part of season 2. There are so many great parts of season 2. There's so many to go through, but it's the most catchy, most revisitable. Just the Serpico, the Scorpio. I think it's Scorpio. The Scorpio music playing behind it. Just the inspiration of the giant inflatable, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing to man. Oh yeah, but of course we got so many. Of course, the other moment, I think season 2 boils down to 2 moments for us: the inflatable montage, and then for me one of the best Mike moments ever in the Albuquerque verse. I'm still trademarking that, by the way, the Albuquerque verse. I've still never heard no one else call it that. I'm not actually trademarking. I don't want to get any legalese on here. My point is just Albuquerque verse. Good title. Someone put it somewhere. The cousins, the Salamanca cousins, threatening Caleb.
Yes. Oh my God.
Still gives me chills. And one of Jonathan Banks' best moments because Mike is genuinely scared, and he is
also just a good highlight in general was the inclusion of so much Salamanca action in season 2.
Yeah, Salamancas are because basically our introduction to Salamancas where they were kind of like a really low level kind of gangster, like they're all muscle and psychopathy. They're all just, they're nuts and they're violent and they're ominous. That's really all that's what the Salamanca clan has going for them. But no, it's actually there's this organizational rally like, yeah, we are all about that, and we'll send our guys where you live, and they're going to threaten you and threaten your loved ones. So again, it's like when Hector was in the game, Tuco was just a mad dog, but Hector was holding the leash. My God, you don't want to cross Hector Salamanca. I love that we're beefing up the menace of Hector Salamanca aside from being the creepy guy with the bell.
Of course, which is one of the dangling plot threads that we're going to deal with going into season 3.
Sure, and then of course there's so many great moments. Like Mike taking Tuco's punishment against less him going up against Tuco, more him holding on to that beam, Tiki, when he's like, right. He's holding on to the beam because he knows he can't let go. Oh God, Gloves Off is such a great episode. Of course, Lawson was a wonderful addition. Seeing Lawson and Mike have their dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
The nephew Steve scene from Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Armadillo or Amarillo?
Amarillo.
Right. I'm saying he had the Armadillo Bolo thing.
Yeah.
The ending of Nailed. Everyone talks about the ending of Nailed, which is very worthy.
Oh my God, that was that.
Peter Gould. I tell you, Peter Gould gets the best episodes. It's some of the best episodes in the Albuquerque verse because he always gets the awesome penultimate episodes.
Yeah, Nailed was, I think, the moment for me where this went from like, okay, I am just as captivated by this as I was by anything on Breaking Bad.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I love the best. I've mentioned this before. One of the great things about Better Call Saul is, the thing about this season 2. Just looking at the season 2 comparison here, because this is always great. The great idea they really put forward in season 2 of Breaking Bad is that Breaking Bad, the very beginning of the season is Walt saying he needs 747,000.
Sure.
Something. And of course, as the season goes on, our big payoff is a 747. All of Walt's actions have kind of put things into place that lead to he gets a 747 and he's alienated his family, but not only in the process of alienating his family, he's actually cost human lives on a massive scale with the 747, the crash, the planes crashing into each other. So I'm saying, like, on that scale, we have like this huge payoff, this huge like tragic thing happening. But with Better Call Saul, on the other hand, with their season 2, it's such a small scale, but it feels just as intense as that almost.
Yeah, right.
Is that okay?
Just a guy bumping his
saying,
head at a copy store.
Yeah, it's like, hey, did you see my brother? And he's having a meltdown, and he hits his head. It's like, it's still as intense though. So it's like these very monotonous, like the opening of a bank. That's the premise of an episode. We're opening a bank, and we're having this hugely intense sequence of of Chuck second guessing himself on this. Oh god, it's like we have these monotonous, mundane. Again, the monotony and mundane is why I watch the show.
But Dragon, I think this is like so much better than what everyone was expecting the show to be, which was basically just like the wacky, like, ooh, let's see what crazy client Saul Goodman takes on this week.
We were expecting kind of the comedy we got from Breaking Bad, but like again, from the very get-go, we were always expecting kind of like even like a half hour, just kind of Saul comedy, like a short. And in place of
I remember I was actually pretty surprised when it was an hour-long show. It was announced. I was like, really? It's not a half-hour comedy?
We did get some like comedic short films on the Breaking Bad DVDs, and I thought it was going to be in the vein of those, but it's going to be Saul dealing with wacky clients, as we all thought. And then, of course, like no, it's going to be like Lou Grant. It's going to be an hour drama with some comedy in it.
And yeah. So, all right, Dragon, if we can kind of transition from season 2.
Okay, but yeah, right. So
we've been on it for a while. So
point is, season 2 was really good.
Yes.
And also Ed Begley Jr. as Cliff name.
And you don't want to piss him off.
Yes. Oh god, I love me some Ed Begley Jr. Right. So, okay, here's traditionally the way we break these speculations down, folks, is kind of what we know, what we've seen, and what we speculate. So here's what we know and what's been kind of set up for this season. These things on paper that we've been informed of.
All right, let's do it.
Right. So Chuck, of course, has Jimmy's confession on tape. That was the ending of Click.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Fring's back, as we've decrypted.
Of course.
From the episode titles, but also we know because Giancarlo Esposito has the cast.
Just holding his hands up like, you guys are too smart.
Let's see. Of course, Fring also he was responsible for, if not placed personally, which I'll get into in a second. The don't was placed on Mike's card. Mike's gonna be really freaked out about that. Someone's watching him, and Mike is usually on the up and up about that sort of stuff. It's really hard to sneak up on Mike Ehrmantraut, as we saw by the Cousins.
Frank just wants to give him some free curly fries. I think he's fine.
I think on the back it's like a coupon for some fish. No, but actually, Giancarlo Esposito, I did do some digging, and he did reveal a few kind of details about Gus Fring. Main details, basically, again, he's not getting the specifics, but vaguely with the characterization. Of course, this is a younger Gus Fring, and Gus, this is a Gus who's starting out. He's not the mastermind yet. He's not basically, we don't know necessarily if he's not the big kingpin yet, but he's definitely he's got some clout. We don't know how far along he's. Basically, my presumption is that he's like Walter White in this case. He's starting out.
Okay, I like that. So he's kind of like this middleman, this kind of like family guy, this face of this new fast food franchise that's just starting out.
Exactly. Which, speaking of kids, I'm glad you brought that up. So here's the thing. Again, you and I, everyone's kind of murmuring this and kind of speculating this because we did visit Gus's house once and we saw a few kids and a few kind of childish items in the house. But it's been confirmed the kids exist, but from what Giancarlo Esposito said, they probably won't appear this season. He doesn't know, which to me sounds like they're not going to be in the season because he would have a scene with them most likely.
Right.
And if he doesn't know, that seems like, okay, they're not going to be in this season.
Okay.
The point is the kids do exist, it sounds like. I mean, he's confirmed that, someone asked him about kids and he didn't say they don't exist, so. Sounds like they exist.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Wexler McGill is up and running.
For how long?
True. Mike chooses not to kill Nacho. He could have killed Salamanca on the spot, but he spared him because of Nacho. The Chuck fallout will definitely put Jimmy through the ringer.
Oh, yeah.
Mike's looking into who's watching him. He's again very paranoid about it now. Mike paranoid is a real shocker. Jimmy is he's going to be taking big steps to becoming Saul this season. There's going to be a lot of moments where he's on the path to becoming Saul.
I'm kind of thinking that Chuck maybe forces him into the Saul position.
Well, absolutely, yes.
Uh-huh.
Of course, we're going to have some good Breaking Bad references. That's been teased.
Do you know that Bryan Cranston did show up on the set? And
I was about to mention.
Yeah,
I was just about to mention that. So here's the last thing I got. So
yeah,
here's folks. I'm just gonna tell you how it is. Here's what has been said. They could be pulling a Chris Nolan kind of Talia al Ghul on us. I don't know, but here's what's going on. So Cranston was on the set, and this is fact. We've seen this documentary. There's been a little video going on.
I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
And this is true. It can be his alibi checks out. Cranston was promoting a book, and he was on the set, but officially, as it's said, and they emphasize this, which makes me think something might be up. He's officially not in season 3. They keep emphasizing not. They say he's not in season 3. And initially, I thought he was going to be directing. That's what I thought he was going to do at the very least.
That would make sense.
Either cameo. Again, cameo is the instant jump to. I fear if they say he's not going to be in season 3, it means he can be directing. But no, I mean if he's just rolling by, he would. A lot of planning goes into directing. So
right.
And we'll see. Again, I'm just saying. I think they're overemphasizing the not. But then again, everyone's going to be raising eyebrows at that. I think we'll see Cranston at some point in this show, though. It's not yet. If he's not going to appear here, he'll definitely appear at some point down the line. Anyway, that's pretty much what we know. And again, what we set up. Just Jimmy's in trouble. Mike's looking into things, and Chuck has the tape.
Okay, so should we get into the promo then?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to do my level best to, get as many of the good freeze frames as possible because this promo goes by super fast, but let's do it. Okay, of course.
There's the scene.
Still driving the same classic car.
Okay, now this is an interesting detail. So this is the office. The office is now newly refurbished, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not new. Let me say it looks a little bit more nice than we saw last time. We got Wexler McGill painted on the wall. Importantly, it's painted on the wall, which means it seems to be kind of somewhat of an impulsive move. Kim really specified the whole Wexler / McGill, like the hyphen. It was spaced out, so I wonder if she likes this logo or not.
Now, to me, looking at it, it kind of looks like symbolism for like a stock market crash.
I think you're absolutely on the money with that, Tiki, and I think it's a brilliant idea. I really do love it because initially when I first saw it, I was thinking it was stock market crash too, and then I realized,
right.
But then again, you connect the dots. Like you're absolutely right.
I mean, granted, like that's just the tape that looks like that, and we might not, like when it's fully painted onto the wall, it might not look like that.
Well, no, it's gonna. That's the logo. It's W and M, which makes like an up and a down.
But okay.
But yeah, that's so clever to me, Tig. It is like the ultimate up and down. Now, what he's saying in that scene, by the way, is let's hold on this for a second. So what he's saying in that scene is that it's best to be early. But again, I think him mentioning being early is again like her maybe not being so keen on painting the symbol, the logo on the wall. Again, kind of the joining of the names, maybe.
Right.
Because again, she specified like there'll be Wexler and McGill, not Wexler.
Yeah, she basically wanted to share a building space.
And again, I think that's I think it's probably going to start off of like, hey, you and I were doing really good right now. Again, back in the heyday of like, hey, Wexler McGill.
It's going to be one of those classic, like the season starts where they're on the top of the world, but then of course we know that can't last.
Yeah, but he says best to be early. He's probably like rationalizing. Well, it's best to be early in life. It's best to be early, except in death and taxes. And the moment of pause goes by, and some other things implying some between the sheets talk.
Sure.
Okay, and we're of course Pollos Hermanos.
Oh yes.
Of course, we got Mike there, Mike and Jimmy in the car again. These two are kind of paired together. Yeah,
this is interesting. It seems like it's becoming a more and more regular thing for these two to be interacting with each other now.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's kind of definitely going to be the start of their eventual status quo in Breaking Bad.
Yep.
Okay. This very much reminds me of something out of Breaking Bad. The speeding car along the
Mike driving
road.
This is most likely Mike driving back from the fring. Kind of don't.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that's always struck me from the beginning of this show, Dragon, from day one, is that the editing and the style and the landscapes and the composition of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are nearly identical, which just makes stepping into this universe feel like it feels like a homecoming almost.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Then we have coming up, we got Chuck gloating via thanking Jimmy at the end of Click. Most likely, this is going to be what starts us off, and we kind of link up with things. They love to do that. We love to link up where we last saw things. This is probably going to, I'd presume, after our Gene opening, most likely, because we usually like to do that.
I would hope they would do a Gene opening.
I presume the way things are going to break down just by this shot is that, okay, we're going to open the episode picking up on I saw like a very brief glimpse when they were kind of talking about the season, not showing like, I didn't watch the scene. You could watch the scene if you really wanted to. They have the scene available for people to watch, the opening here, but I declined to watch it. Where basically we see from the other side of the space blanket. You have the space blanket kind of Jimmy enters through.
Okay, so they don't have the Gene opening online, right?
No,
okay,
not the
thank
Gene.
God, thank God. You scared me for a second.
No, this is what I'm talking about.
I was about to go on a rant. I was like, AMC, why would you? Okay, I'm sorry, Dragon. Go ahead.
I'm talking about like this scene right here. Like you see the opening shot's really cool. Of like as this scene, basically as he's like thanking Jimmy on the way out. We didn't see this part of it, like him probably thanking Jimmy. Of course, is kind of Chuck subtly gloating, given what we know about this scene. Like, oh, Jimmy, thank you. You've been such a great help. So anyway, yeah, it's going to be Chuck's, just again, seeding the evilness of Chuck a little. Now, this is a good shot here, because she's in Mesa Verde, because it's, they mentioned in season 2, Mesa Verde is famous as Howard Hamlin schmoozing over Kevin Wachtel.
Right.
Yeah, he mentions the cowboy cutout with the cactus, which is this thing there, which actually looks pretty cool, I gotta say.
It does, yeah. It's pretty
she's in Mesa Verde, and Mesa Verde is going through a crisis right now, thanks to Chuck. Well, thanks to Jimmy, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Want to split hairs. Okay, let's see. So there's a mention. Oh, one of my favorite shots here. So first of all, we have the whole "you will pay" being mentioned here. Chuck saying "you will pay." Very ominous. Now we have Howard climbing over a wall of what looks to be a playground.
What is Howard Hamlin up to?
I know Howard's getting his hands dirty. I gotta tell you, I'm just so interested. I'm so intrigued. Again, Howard Hamlin has the thing that always intrigues me. Like, what's going through Howard Hamlin's mind?
Also, it looks like Howard Hamlin is balding
but,
a little bit.
Go back. Trying to, I can't really get a good shot of the back of the ears.
I know.
Okay, let him clap. No, he's not balding.
His hair's at least thinning.
I know
a little bit. He got a haircut. Howard Hamlin got a haircut. Breaking news. But no, seriously though, yeah, it's just so intriguing. Like Howard Hamlin, like what the hell is he doing?
Yeah, I love this. Again, it's like Howard Hamlin in the feast doing his own field work. He's kind of I love this. He's kind of acting like Jimmy from season 1 right here. He's climbing over the wall.
I also love how, of course, he's in the Hamlindigo Blue suit. Course.
Yeah, boy, I'm so excited for how I got theories about Howard Hamlin. We'll get there. Then of course, we have the Mike with the sniper. That might be from the link up from last season.
I think it might be. Sure, yeah,
but,
yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be him like trying to get another shot, and there's the tape, of course. The locking shot, which may be kind of Chuck locking up. Who knows?
Yeah.
Someone locking up, intimidating. This shot, of course, is very interesting. Something to note in this scene is that you'll notice while Jimmy is in the prison jumpsuit, his hair is not long or in the mullety condition, which means this is in the present. It is heavily implied this is in the present, which means Chuck is most likely definitely turning Jimmy in. Jimmy's in really hot water. So I'm saying otherwise the hair would be longer like we saw in the flashback that one time.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's a very slim chance it could be the other way around, but again, it's most likely this present-day Jimmy, which means it's, for all we know, this actually could kill the Jimmy McGill persona and then birth Saul, for all we know.
For sure.
His name could be dragged from the moment.
He'll have to jump through some legal loopholes to get out of this.
Oh, yeah. And we see Gus Fring is all smiles. Coming up after...
Oh, my God. Would you like some free curly fries?
And then, of course, with our final kind of shot, this is the main promo. Of course, every season has like kind of their main postery kind of promo image. And here, Jimmy, I love this. They have like him painted with stripes because he's kind of facing prison times, kind of facing prison bars. Kind of made him old timey, kind of like old timey striped prison jumpsuits.
Sure.
On his suit here. And of course, I love the. We're not going to show you the other little teaser promos because what Better Call Saul loves to do is they love to have these kind of tonal teasers in which like it's like doesn't.
We could show him a little bit of it.
Well, this isn't one of them, but okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We don't have to watch this whole thing, but this was just put out a few days ago, and I think it's pretty hysterical.
This does have an interesting story behind it. Giancarlo Esposito revealed that he's been pitching this since day one, working as Gus Fring, the whole like do a promotional kind of like do some promotional, so Gus Fring like, a cheesy commercial, and they've done that. But also because we saw there is also another video where it's a commercial for Los Pollos Hermanos. That's how they announced Gus Fring. And then
I just want to find my favorite gag here, which is something about. Oh, let me see.
Are you looking for the thought balloon?
I'm looking for the moment where it references him being a drug lord or having something on the side or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. Go forward. It's the thought balloon. You're looking for the thought balloon.
Okay.
Welcome to Los Pollos Hermanos. Make sure to look them in the eye. Remain composed. There we go. So there's the Don Eladio, drug business. There we go.
I just love that, like, young Gus Fring, just like, ooh, I could make some money. Ooh.
But yeah, this is something that Giancarlo Esposito had the idea of, like, he was getting into the Gus Fring. He loves playing this character who can hide in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. And that's the great thing. That's always been the great thing about Gus Fring, and what made him so captivating even before we knew much about him was just
again the successful end goal of Walter White, which Walter White then becomes the Gus Fring, and now it's a fun reversal, most likely that we're going to see Gus Fring in his Walter White phase.
Oh man, that sounds like a lot of fun, Dragon. You
gotta remember, this is Gus Fring before he, like, for all we know, Gus Fring's he's hiding in plain sight, but he's nervous about it, like Walter White was, for all we know.
Sure.
So now one real quick, like I was saying, so we're not really going to show you, but basically, like an image like this, for example, this is like kind of tonal. Like, okay, all three of these guys end up in Breaking Bad, and they're all kind of obviously we're not going to see this.
Saul's kind of between Mike and Gus.
Yeah, so obviously we're not going to see this image in the show, and like the tonal
Gus is kind of like trying to lean in on Saul and Mike's conversation, perhaps. Like there's a lot of things you can defer to in just the body language in this picture.
The point is, kind of tonal things like Jimmy being processed, fingerprint, all that stuff. And we also have like my favorite little tagline, the promotional tagline is like criminal period, lawyer period. So it's not criminal lawyer, it's like he's a criminal. And he's a lawyer.
That's great, yeah.
Okay. So, boy, boy.
So let's get to some spec. And Dragon, we have 7 episodes, man. 7 episodes. So,
all right, so I want to start with the episode titles then.
Yeah, let's start with the episode titles.
Okay, so here's for Mabel. Mabel. I think is gonna be one of two things, Tiki. Well, first and foremost, of course, we have Vince Gilligan. I believe Gilligan usually doesn't do the first 2 in a row. I know he usually does the first one. So that's kind of a switch.
Yeah.
I like that we don't know the writers because people are just really. I love that the fan base has grown so much that people are really excited about the writers, so they're holding that off to the last minute.
Sure.
So anyway, so Mabel, I think, could be one of two things. What I'm hoping it's going to be, what I would love it to be, is I would love it because one of the best plot points of episode 10 for me, the very beginning, was, of course, the death of Mama McGill. What if Mama McGill was
Mabel?
Yes, was Mabel McGill. Or, of course, just fitting in my moniker for her, Mama Mabel McGill.
Mama Mabel. Oh, God, yes.
No, but seriously, in all seriousness, think about it. Think about the implications. If her name, first name was Mabel. If her first name was Mabel, of course, that'd be like kind of that for me was the big turning point of like whatever Chuck does, he's done something unforgivable in the past. So for me, going forward, like Chuck right now, he's definitely the bad guy. He's done something unforgivable. So
absolutely.
And the point is just like that last Shakespearean thing between the brothers. Because this season, I think thematically, Tiki, is going to be war. it's going to be war for everyone. It's going to be a war between Fring and Salamanca, and it's also going to be a war between brother versus brother, very Civil War-esque.
Mm.
And again, I think, of course, we would start it off with a very dramatic thing of kind of like the mother was the huge defining thing that really is why Chuck fundamentally doesn't like Jimmy, because it made his mother proud, but Jimmy made her laugh.
Sure.
That's the way that Michael McKean always phrases it, which I think is very accurate. Much like with Jonathan Banks and honestly Ray Seahorn, like a lot of actors, what they've been doing is the way they really get into their characters, the writers do take notice and they do work it into the play. Like Jonathan Banks had the idea of Stacy not being his daughter, of having the dead son. That was Jonathan Banks' idea.
Right, which I think that's really interesting, and it does kind of lead a lot of context to how their interactions are a little bit stilted when it comes to Breaking Bad, and how there's a little bit of distance between them.
Exactly. Again, these actors they have to fill in the backstories, and the writers sometimes take notice. And like, for example, I'm not sure if they're going to write this in, but Ray Seahorn has revealed in an interview recently that you'll notice in Kim's office there are no pictures of her or any personal photos. So she really keeps her personal life hidden. Jimmy is kind of the only example of that, which is why she's going to be terrified this season, most likely, of mixing business with pleasure.
Of course, that's always kind of been her arc. Yeah.
Because think about it, the closest we've ever heard about Kim's backstory is when she was in that interview with Schweiker and Copeland, and she mentioned her father once to Jimmy. She doesn't like talking about her personal life.
Yeah, and of course she is very close to. She came from Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Gene is in Nebraska, so there's that kind of loose.
I'm still pulling for I love your theory. I really hope we go there. We'll get to that when we get to the end of our speculation. We'll go broader, so let's see how that might unfold. Anyway, okay. So episode 2, Witness. I'm convinced that's going to be Lance. Lance is going to factor in our copy guy. That's going to be.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
So let me transition here. So episode 1, I think majority is going to be built on Chuck making the choice of, am I going to use this against Jimmy or not? At the end, of course, he's going to choose yes. Episode 2 is going to be, well, logically, he'd go to Lance. Now, you got to remember, even with that tape, Chuck, it's still his word. Again, at the end, Jimmy on tape says, I just said it to make you feel better. So Jimmy could use that to his advantage. So Chuck does need Lance on his side. He needs more than just that tape. Let's make that very clear. So people just think, oh no, he's got the tape, so Jimmy's crucified. Not necessarily the case. He's got that. Got Lance in episode 2 is probably going to be the witness in question. Also, you have the 2 ladies. I don't know if they were kind of kicked out, so I don't know how much of that they witnessed. I mean, you never know. But no, it needs to be a witness for Jimmy. So again, it's all on Lance. Never mind. It's all on Lance. And it's going to be a big sign that Jimmy's going to be in serious trouble if Lance is on Chuck's. If Chuck had gotten around Lance, like threatening jail time or something, and Lance, he didn't want to get entangled with the cops. So, of course, Lance is instantly going to fold on Jimmy.
Right. Okay, sunk costs. I definitely think that's going to kind of be the fallout with Kim and Jimmy. I think maybe we'll see Wexler and McGill splinter a little bit earlier than we hope.
Because you got to remember now, just analyzing the meanings here for a moment, is that sunk cost is a term in business that means like this is a loss you cannot regain, no matter what you do. Basically, you're going to lose something. So that's either going to be a really bad aftermath for Jimmy specifically, or most likely what Tiki's saying here, Jimmy and Kim's, for Wexler and McGill.
Right.
Now, next is Sabrosito. Sabrosito, which I've looked up, and I got to tell you, I've come up empty. The closest thing I've seen...
I just tried to translate it myself, and I haven't come up with anything.
The closest thing I found are... Here's the thing. Sabrososo, not Sabrosito. Sabrososo means, delicious. Tasty. Okay. So it's different. Bear in mind, it's different. But here...
Oh, God. But if we do translate that, maybe the first time we see Los Pollos Hermanos.
I know, but
tasty curly fries.
Let me throw this at you, though. Here's the thing. So the closest thing I have found is Sabrosito. I've seen a few taco stands with Sabrosito working in there as a title.
Okay.
Now, it is not the taco stand that we saw in Gloves Off. I want to make that clear. That's a different one. Just in case Sabrosito does actually relate to tacos. Again, that's a light taco. Okay, I can't I have to tell you. Again, I've seen a few tacos since like El Sabrosito, something else. Sabrosito. I've seen a few Sabrositos, but no definition. So unfortunately, nada. However, what I think you're on the money though with the whole Los Pollos Hermanos thing. I think a few of these episodes, just with kind of the little bit of Spanish influence there, I think that might intimate, Tuco is going to come back and play. If it's indeed related to tacos, it's going to be the Salamanca situation coming up. We're going to check back in with Mike's story, like if Tuca's going to get out or not.
Sure.
At the very least, that episode, if it's not about Salamanca in that capacity. It's definitely going to be about Fring. It might be like kind of how Mike had his episode. It might be Fring centric.
Oh, I'd love that. Oh man,
it might be. Again, you got to remember, Gustavo Fring is a very interesting backstory on two levels. Because one level, of course, is just filling in the blanks between the death of his partner and now. Well, in 2002 now. Or, of course, we know Gus had a reputation before that, too. He's married. He was the Chilean. He had his whole Chilean backstory we never learned. So, again, that could be the Chilean backstory of how he met Max. Max was his partner.
Uh-huh.
A lot of, again, I wouldn't put it past that. We would get in one of these episodes, at the very least, Sabrosito seems to be in the same, like, number-wise, like what 5-0 was.
Right.
To be kind of our Gus Fring backstory episode, with maybe Mike as the framing device, Jimmy as the framing device, who knows. Then we have chicanery. Chicanery is basically like legal trickery. That's what that word means, essentially. I'm not kidding. It's trickery in a legal capacity.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because I'm an idiot. Because when I read it, I just read it as chicken-airy. And so I was like, oh, it's chicken. But no, obviously it's not spelled like chicken. I'm an idiot. Okay, I'm sorry. Explain what it really means.
So again, chicanery is basically, it's a fancy way of saying trickster. It's like trickery. It's like legal trickery. Basically, the most apt description of what fits our purposes here is legal trickery. I think that's definitely
this is going to be where we either see either Hamlin, Chuck, or both of them kind of slip down into the Slip and Jimmy route.
Absolutely.
Of, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's where Hamlin's like jumping over walls and stuff.
Tiki, you read my mind. That's absolutely what I'm thinking. It's
going
to be
a
Hamlin thing, or it's going to be Chuck again, just kind of pulling the street. I think Hamlin's going to be a big focus in that one. I think it's going to be Hamlin and Chuck are going to be the main focuses of chicanery, because of course Chuck played the big trick on Jimmy, and might be Jimmy trying to out trick Chuck, and Hamlin is in between the two forces.
Sure.
Then we have Off-Brand, which I want to say is. I think Off-Brand is definitely going to be a kind of a Fring Saul episode. I think that's going to be basically, we're going to foreshadow Saul, and that Jimmy's going off-brand from Wexler McGill to fitting into the Saul moniker that we're going to see down the line. And on Fring's side, it would be like, okay, maybe if Sabrosito isn't the Fring backstory, I think Off-Brand could also be the Fring backstory, because he starts off as like an off-brand kind of chicken thing that eventually becomes Polos Hermanos.
Right. And of course, Polos Hermanos itself is. Remember, it's just part of like that grander chain of like all kinds of different like crazy fast food restaurants and stuff that we saw. So,
and at the very least, I think in terms of Polos Hermanos, what we would see that would correlate with like a Fring off-brand sort of correlation would be if Off-Brand referred to, okay, this is when Mike learns of Fring's drug operations, where we see like the inside process, like how he's kind of working at this point. Like he's not the huge kingpin at this point. We see like kind of, it's like an off-brand drug.
Right.
Basically, it's like kind of like the off-brand kind of drug smuggling operation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we have expenses, which of course means personal costs, and that I think that definitely that will relate to everyone under the umbrella there. But of course,
I could see that definitely being like maybe like a big like cataclysmic, not like on the same scale as Ozymandias, but kind of like in a similar vein where it's like everything's crashing down around everyone else. I don't know.
Exactly. And let's remember last season, again, I'm not saying it's like an absolute pattern, but last season, episode 7 was debatably the best episode. So again, just, expenses sounds like that could be like a big.
It's like the Netflix episode 8 thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not that, because that's not that tight a pattern, but
but
still, again, episode 7 though, expenses sounds like a big, like big stuff's going to happen with the expenses.
All right, and then I guess just freeform spec, which I honestly don't have too much of after what we've gone over. Like we said, I definitely think I don't necessarily think we're going to get as much Gus as people are hoping we're going to get. I think it's going to be a very similar situation to season 2 of Breaking Bad, where we slowly ease Gus into it. And I'm thinking, if anything, like you said, like I'm thinking like towards the end game of the season is when we start actually getting into Gus Fring's criminal empire. And the rest of the time we see him, he's just the happy chicken man.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him just to use Gus in half the season, but like we'll build to him, and then like for half the season he'll be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it may, like Sparks, like no more than 5 episodes of Fring. I would imagine.
Sure.
Like whether it's like consecutive or not.
I have heard. I've also heard interviews that say, for better or for worse, this season is another slow burn, like all other Better Call Saul seasons have been, and arguably like all other Breaking Bad seasons have been. So I don't really see anything wrong with that. But having said that, Dragon, I can also expect there to be at least a few, shall we say, impatient would be the right word for it. Impatient people, or the polite word would be impatient. There's going to be a few impatient people who are just going to be like, Fring's not in the first episode. This season sucks,
But hey, Victor might be able to get Victor in there. Who knows?
Right,
oh no,
right.
actually no, we wouldn't have Victor, but Victor. Well, at the end we might get Victor because Victor has to meet Mike. Victor was the proto Pinkman. Let's see. So I'm just trying to think where to start. I mean, with Fring, I guess we'd start a little bit with Fring.
Yeah, so I just pretty much laid out everything with Fring. Like I said, I don't really have much, but
just kind of summarizes the points I've already made. I think Gus is going to start out like Walt. He's forming the empire. He's being clever. He's being clever. He's just kind of formulating his plan at this point. He's not to the point where like he has like all the means and all the clout with the cartel. Exactly the thing you laid out to. He's going to be like Walter White, the intermediary of the thing. Like he has a business. Basically, this is his car wash. He's at Walt with the car wash. He's like between seasons 3 and it's like season 4 Walt's operation status. But yeah, it's like that. But he's on good terms with everyone. It seems. Mm-hmm. He's like season 4 Walt with the car wash, and he's making the product.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So. In an interesting way, just an interesting comparison between Gus and Saul, possibly, is that basically Gus might be the laundering. What if Poison Hermanos start off as kind of the laundering service of the drug empire?
Oh, I like that. And Gus just kind of weaseled his way into it.
Yeah, maybe because remember Gus.
Now, let me ask you this.
Gus isn't a chemist.
Do you think this season is going to be? This season has to take place after the flashbacks that we saw in Hermanos, right?
Well, I was just about to lay out the timeline for Gus.
Okay.
So, okay. I know. Here's what we know. So in 1989, Gus and his partner Max, they went to Don Eladio, and that's when Max got killed. So that's in 89. So that means 13 years later is 2002, which is where we're at now. We're still in.
Okay.
Because Breaking Bad likes to do this. We're still in the same year, even though we're 3 seasons into it. Bear in mind, Better Call Saul is like, again, this makes you question, we'll get to this at the end, but like how many seasons we're going for. Just like put a pin in that. But the point is, like some people would say, okay, 6 years. But no, again, Breaking Bad was only like in like 2 or 3 years. Well, 2 years. 50, 51.
And then there was like a kind of a time jump with, at the end. But
that's what I'm saying. Like technically 2 years, but let's not get point is, so again, 89 is when all the bad stuff happened in Gus Fring's life. Not the Chilean stuff, just again when he and Don Eladio had their big thing. In 2008, Gus is the big boss. In 2009 is when he kills Eladio. So that's 1 year into the 2 years of Breaking Bad. So the point is, 13 years. This takes place. So that was 13 years before Fring becomes the big kingpin. The way I figure the breakdown is going to go, Tegan, this is just me throwing out there like what happened in between things here. 7 years before Better Call Saul, 7 years before 2002. I figure after the basically I think it's going to take. It took him 2 years to get to Albuquerque and get the business up and running. 2 years to get. I'm sorry, 2 years to get to Albuquerque. 3 years to get the business up and running, and another 2 years to outline the whole Eladio plan and kind of become that drug kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm figuring. Kind of that's 7 years.
Okay.
There. Anyway, so let's see. I already mentioned that thing. I guess I think we're gonna root for Gus to get revenge on Salamanca as the season goes on. Again, as we understand Gus possibly through some flashback episodes, perhaps, or at the very least, Gus getting to know Mike.
Which is going to be really interesting, kind of like coming. Like I really like what you've laid out about him being the Walter White, where we're going to get to be much more on his side, which And I feel like that could add a great context to Breaking Bad, which, some of these Better Call Saul things, that's Better Call Saul at its best is kind of like it does the Rogue One thing of kind of filling in the blanks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what I think it's going to be great is that thing about it. When Mike talked to Nacho at the end of season 2, Nacho is basically, Mike's really stuck on the fact, he hasn't forgotten Salamanca, even though Nacho's saying Salamanca doesn't even care about you, doesn't even know who you are. And I think the fact that Gus has a vendetta against Salamanca, and mainly Salamanca, because Salamanca's the man who pulled the trigger, of course. And Eladio is that the fact that he's nursing a vendetta, and so is Mike, but they're both very restrained in how they're doing it. I think together they're going to form kind of the proper way of doing it. That's what's really going to strengthen their bond. The cartel is threatening Mike's family, and of course taking a significant part of it from Gus.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Let's try to transition. Well, basically, I think Gus. The other big thing that's going to draw Mike to Gus. Last thing on Gus is that I think Gus is offering Mike a way of getting revenge without death, which is what Mike really wants at this point. Will still, of course, down the line. I presume season 4 that's really going to get muddied. That's when Mike's going to start killing people again. Because remember, Mike's been done everything he can to avoid killing. And I think that's what's going to kind of it starts them off on good terms, and then just like Mike's just kind of becoming desensitized as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I guess offering revenge, which will eventually. I think the season. Do you think the season's going to end with Salamanca in the wheelchair?
Well, I kind of thought season 2 would end with Salamanca in the
wheelchair.
Of course. I mean, if I were to guess, yes, but I think this show has a weird thing of kind of playing around with our expectations in terms of when we're going to get things, and it being a more slow burn than we're expecting, but it still being very satisfying anyways.
Let me ask you this: do you think they'll draw it out because they could just mute him and then put him in the chair with 2 separate incidents? You think it's gonna be one incident?
I would be disappointed if that was the case. I want to see it be like a dramatic incident that both mutes him and puts him in the chair.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
Honestly, just as a fan of Breaking Bad, and it's kind of like the. I'm sorry, Dragon, I'm going to pull a Lost reference here. It's kind of like the how did Locke end up in the wheelchair thing with Lost. It's like if it's not a big reveal, then it's kind of like all that build-up's been for nothing. So,
right. Okay, let's see. So here's so with Jimmy, just the crux of this season, with Jimmy being in the hot seat, I figure there are 2 potential outcomes. Here's the optimistic route. The optimistic route is okay. Chuck's attack on Jimmy threatens Wexler and McGill. They go through a lot of hardship, of course, maybe questioning some relationship stuff. But Kim sticks by Jimmy through thick and thin, probably gets him out of the jail hotspot. And they find a way out of it, and they still manage to hang on to Wexler and McGill. At the very least, they'll still stand together no matter what happens. That's the optimistic route. Now, here's a tragic route, which to me sounds a little bit like it might be in season 4 territory, but still, it's just this is a tragic route. This is very much kind of the written on the walls destiny route. This is Kim sticks by Jimmy's side at the cost of Wexler and McGill. They lose the thing. With Howard's help, and this would explain why Howard's kind of jumping over the wall and stuff. Howard getting his hands dirty. And I figure it's the big thing with Howard Hamlin this season is Howard becomes his own man. He's tired of being kicked around this McGill war. He's like, you know what? It's HHM, 2 H's, 1 M. I didn't even want this company, but now I've been. My father pushed me into it. It's a thing, part of my legacy. I got.
That's a really good point. Is that at this point Howard Hamlin is just kind of like this poor ragdoll that's been brought into this insane Shakespearean family conflict.
Because again, the ending of last season, he's asking Jimmy, is this real? Because we spent all this time in season 1, I had to kick Jimmy around because Chuck didn't want to go.
Right.
Now he's going. So I figure again the tragic route will be with Howard's help. The big payoff of the season would be, and this to me be the just route of what would Chuck's ultimate end be? Is that Chuck doesn't have to die in Better Call Saul, but they commit Chuck, and maybe they do the cash out option, which that money gets transferred between the 3 of them or to Howard.
Sure.
So basically Chuck ends up committed.
And of course, with Chuck committed, and maybe with Jimmy having something to do with that'd be a big reason why we never hear about it on Breaking Bad, because it's kind of like this dark shadow hanging over Saul that he doesn't want to bring up.
Absolutely. You see what I mean? We do have a way of not killing Chuck, but still doing something really dark with it. Because again, Jimmy does have all the power to commit Chuck, and there's a lot of evidence to his craziness.
Which is kind of like the first big plot thread we ever got introduced to in this show was that power.
Absolutely. And again, I think it'd be poetic if it involved Kim, Howard, and Jimmy, because they were all in that scene together talking about those options.
That's true.
Of course,
that's true.
they were in a very different place in that scene. And
all right, I really like that. I really like that. That's got a great booking quality to it.
So again, I'm just throwing the cash out option because I'm not sure how that will work entirely, but I'm just throwing it because it was mentioned in that scene, so it's kind of on my mind. So I'm just thinking, regardless, I think Chuck's getting committed, but whether he's committed and also his 17 million in the company is up for grabs. Let's say the three of them split that. So Kim, again, the tragic route being the emphasis on this part here. So Kim, Howard had their respective practices. Like Howard essentially absorbs HHM, so it's just it's HHM. M is just like a formality, or they get rid of the M. Kim, she starts off her own little humble practice, and Jimmy then takes his, and with his tarnished name from the trial and everything, or basically whatever went on. Again, we've been promised never to see the inside of a courtroom, so I don't think we're going to get the inside of a courtroom. But I still think Jimmy being arrested might have a basically Jimmy McGill, and this is something from the first season. The HHM didn't want him to use his name because they didn't want that McGill tarnishing the name of the other McGill. Mm-hmm. So what if Jimmy, because of all the stuff in this season, because of what Chuck's done to him this season, his name's been tarnished, so he doesn't use McGill anymore. McGill now no longer has any clout, so now he starts anew with his share of the money as Saul Goodman in the strip mall.
Yeah, I think that's just about on the money, Dragon. I think that's a pretty, if I were a betting man at Vegas, I would bet on those odds, yeah.
And again, the only reason I hesitate on that, because that does sound like we might be really moving up the Saul ladder to season 4 territory, but I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And again, just fulfilling Chuck's wish while at the same time condemning him. I think it's kind of a poetic justice for Chuck's story. Like he's motivated Jimmy to be such a good lawyer. He kind of outdid Chuck at the end of the day, and he's kind of he's put his brother on this path of kind of a failed lawyer.
Sure.
It's the ultimate comeuppance. I think it's kind of poetic if they go that route. So again, I've already mentioned the thematic war. Mike investigating the don't. We know that's coming. 11%. Okay, so there is the question. This is something we will have. I assume we're going to see addressed because this is another big hanging kind of fruit of Breaking Bad we got to figure out. There's a question of how early will Tuco be getting out? Because that gun thing's still looming in the air. Because you remember the gun thing is still unresolved.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Tuco get out this season. I really wouldn't.
Let's refresh everyone. We got 6 years till Breaking Bad, and the gun charge, as it's, if I'm right, he could do up to 5 years, but depending how this gun charge goes, if Mike claims ownership for it or not, or depending how it goes, he could get out sooner than 5 years. Which the maximum would be 5 years, so he could get out by a year in advance and then set up everything for Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. So it could be earlier, or at the very
honestly,
latest.
I wouldn't be surprised if just the whole charge in general, like if there was, if there was something sketchy that went down and he just got off.
You're right. That's fair, and that, of course, made a more interesting route to go. So we'll see. I'm just saying they always had the out if they wanted to. Okay, well, we don't have to worry about getting Raymond Cruz because he's a busy guy.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Okay, now here's 3 hanging details we know about Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad that we still have not seen yet. So, of course, Jimmy's 2 marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Kim being one of them. Who knows? Salamanca in the chair with Tuco, of course. But basically, less him being put in the wheelchair, more like how Tuco gets his hands on Salamanca and gets him out of there after the wheelchair thing. So we know we know Tuco's going to get out at some point after that wheelchair thing happens. That's probably when Tuco's going to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And of course, the last one. I think this is going to be and I'll get into my broad spectrum series breakdown. That'll be the last thing I got. But,
okay, cool.
So I think the business with Ignacio, business with Nacho, more specifically as Jimmy phrases it, Ignacio, because that was the first glimpse we got at Saul Goodman in the desert. He's put in the desert. He's putting on his bad knees in front of the hole that Walt and Jesse dug, and he's saying, "It was Ignacio. It was Ignacio." I think he's talking to Tuco about that. I think he's begging Tuco for his life because Tuco put him in that situation at the very beginning of Better Call Saul. So I think again we still have business between Jimmy and Nacho on the horizon.
Of course.
So
yeah, he's always been a character where I feel like there could be more done with him. So
yeah, you can see Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so again, like broad spectrum here, I guess. Season 4 could be, he'll definitely. I think he'll definitely be Saul in season 4. I think that goes without saying. He'll definitely absolutely be Saul Goodman by
Mhm.
that point. He'll either be again. It sounds so bizarrely Bates Motel-esque. I'm sorry, but it just does. It's he'll either be basically he could either be at the beginning of the Saul persona where it's it's like kind of the two personas where he's Jimmy McGill, but he plays it up as he said he plays it up for the homeboys, with the with the Goodman.
I can't wait to see that like start. Like him realize that the Jewish thing is like working with those kind of clients.
Yeah, you see what I mean though. Like in the beginning it's still like he's putting on an act, but by season 5, like we see Breaking Bad, he is still fundamentally he has kind of been transformed. He's all alienated and alone. No Kim Wexler, none of our colorful characters, and he'll be like forming these new. Almost like kind of like
He's basically just like a dancing monkey at that point.
Yeah, and like kind of the it's kind of weird. I don't know why I'm going here, but it's kind of like it's like a Vegas act. It's kind of like he feels so Vegas in terms of lawyering.
No, he is. You're right.
At a certain point, it's gonna be like a little Vegas strip mall with like Huel and HT and QB.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like those are going to be his knockoffs of our wonderful characters.
Oh, back in the day when we thought that was going to be like the main cast of the show.
But I'm saying, think about the payoff of that though. Like now, the characters we have are kind of pale comparisons to the vastly interesting. I'm not saying these are characters we end up with.
No, you're right. You're right. And back in the day, we were like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we saw HT and Huel?
No, but I don't mean to insult those characters. I'm just saying, like, they would be befitting of Saul Goodman, like this facade of Saul Goodman that is now just all Jimmy knows and all he is now, which, again, season 5 would be kind of our tragedy season.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be hilarious, but at the same time, it's like sad comedy. So, again, like Walt, it will be Saul without Kim or without his friends. Nacho story. I think the Nacho stuff will be in season 5. I think that's where we get the Nacho story.
Okay.
By the way, here's my big theory. I want to throw this at you, big one. I think we're gonna get all the Breaking Bad stuff in one episode. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Let me throw this out. Here's my big theory. I think as we close in, whenever they end it, whether this is season 5 or I hope at the very least we get 6 seasons. I think honestly, I think I like they're discovering their.
I wouldn't say the very least. I would say at the very most. I hope we get 6 seasons.
It's this bizarre thing, Tiki, because it's just because I love the way they're telling the story. I love how they're discovering this, sort of letting it breathe. I'm just saying, at a point like not being able to guess when it would end. Honestly, I think
all I'm saying is that like the Walking Dead creator has gone on record and saying he wants the Walking Dead to go for another 20 years. And I'm like, fuck that.
I'm just saying, to be fair, Saul's working with less episodes than Breaking Bad did. With the exception of the first season.
Right.
I'm saying basically, if you took the excess of those seasons, it would equate to at least 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. So I think like absolute max. Of course, I'm not saying they should go this route. I'm saying that it depends where the story leads them. I don't expect it to go past at absolute max 8 seasons.
I would say that
I'm
would
saying
be the max. Yeah,
I'm saying that's the absolute max.
And I would not be comfortable with that. But
yeah, I'm saying I think what they should do is 6 would be the proper number because that's
6 seasons in a movie. Seriously.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying though. I think 6 seasons would probably be a logical, right? Because 6 years in between 6 seasons. It's kind of, even though it's not going to do actually 6 years. Well, it's going to fast forward to 6 years.
Sure.
We're not going to see all 6 of those years play out. They're always weird about the timelines. But my point is, I think what we're going to do, because we've seen this in like a comic that was written by Gordon Smith, by the way. I'm not saying basically. I've been saying from the beginning what we would do, like if we reach the point where okay, now we're in the Breaking Bad kind of where we're going to have Bryan Cranston, we can have Jesse, we can have Aaron Paul, we can have all our guys, and basically tell the stories in between the episodes we didn't see with Saul Goodman and the wacky clients. Basically, we could tell the in between stories, which again we've seen a glimpse of in comic form, like how they would approach that, which is interesting and it's fun. There's some good stories to tell, but as much as I've been saying that all these seasons, like well, eventually we'll get to that point where we link up with okay, now he's Saul Goodman.
Mm-hmm. I
figure the smart way they'll do, and the way we've kind of seen done in Breaking Bad seasons previously, like what if we get like an entire clip show episode of like. Basically, when we remember in season 5 when we saw all the Walt stuff we saw laid out in episodes, all combined together.
Yeah.
You know, he goes to the
Yeah.
house, he unscrews the ricin, you know, he bumps into the neighbor. All that stuff was put together.
Right.
So what if we got that with like all of these in betweens? Basically, saw like how Saul linked up from a different angle of scenes we've seen in Breaking Bad to the Summeyes, either like as the penultimate episode to an entirely Gene based episode, or this lead as the cold open. Then we get the Gene stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't really have too much to say about it, but
I guess just in terms of like in ending the series as a whole, I think we'll get 2 or 3 episodes with Gene, which will lead to your Kim Wexler reuniting. Which I'm super in favor of. I'm just saying, I think what we'll build to is we'll have Gene-centric episodes at the very end, like it'll be entirely Gene.
I could just see like an ending of like Gene showing up at Kim Wexler's door with like a single flower or something like that.
Do you think it should be in black and white?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm saying if we went like the entire episode running time, would you want it to be black and white?
Or maybe, okay, let me lay it out you like this. Maybe it's in black and white all the way up until the final shot, and the final shot is we don't see Kim, but we just see the door opening, and as the door opens, color goes on to Gene for the first time. We see
I like
color for the first time.
I like that idea, but of course we would actually see Kim Wexler at some point, though, right?
No, I'm saying she'd open the door, and then Gene looks up, and we see Gene's face in color. Cut to credits. We don't need to see Kim Wexler.
That's a good shot. I'm just kind of processing if we could go without seeing Kim Wexler in that final shot or not. But I see what you're saying.
I'm saying we don't need it. I'm saying all we need is the reaction that Gene would have to seeing her.
I mean, that's clever. I like that. I just like the color idea. But I see what you're saying. That's a good idea, regardless. Okay, it's of course the little motion thing would be great. It would make logical sense as the last episode. Last thing you got Jim meeting Kaylee.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be a setup for like, you know, they might set up, if not this season, then definitely next season. Where okay, well, Mike's
that could also be a good crux for like Mike and Jimmy growing closer as well.
Yeah, like it might not even be in this season, but it'll definitely be like in this season or next season, where, you know, Mike's setting up the fund for Kaylee's college, and there's Kaylee after the, you know, that just regards like the whole like Mike's will and testament thing.
Sure.
Which again, Jimmy doing wills, of course, he would oversee Mike's will for Kaylee.
Oh yes.
And I bet you the minute Kaylee's threatened again, that's when we're going to get the wheelchair with Salamanca. That's what's going to motivate that.
Man,
that's threatening again, that's when Mike's going to freak. Anyway, so again, season 3 is looking really good.
Yeah, can't wait, folks. We will be back to talk about that. You know, we're kind of it's going to be crazy, Dragon. We're going to have that. We have Gotham in a couple weeks. Hopefully we can juggle all that. And, of course, we also have Bates Motel. So stay tuned for all that on the horizon, folks. In the meantime, don't forget to stop by your local Las Polas Hermanos for those delicious free curly fries.